Today I'm talking to Tim Simmons. He's the founder of the Theoretically Media channel. Tim is a film and media expert. He's a marketing and content expert and an emerging AI and media expert. So Tim comes from the film industry, working with New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers and Discovery and Trailer Park, and working on movies like Blade 3. And now Tim is really passionate about AI and creating content and really just teaching other people how to do it. So welcome, Tim. It's great to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. This is really cool.
All right, so let's dive right in. What's your favorite new way that you're using AI in your creative process right now?
The Mostly by generating, I'm really excited about generating short films and
Mhm.
music videos, that sort of thing, with our various AI tools, everything from Runway to Pika. We've all seen Sora now, I believe, like the OpenAI's new one, which I don't have access to. No one has access to that one yet, but it's exciting to know that that is coming right around the corner.
So everyone's obviously very excited about all of these art and video generating platforms. You know, we just saw what's his name cancel his $800 million studio
Tyler
expansion.
Perry, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, what's going on here? Is this going to come in and replace everyone that does everything creative, or what's your take on this?
No, not at all. In fact, I actually just got back from a giving a talk to the Hollywood Professional Association, which is pretty much a lot of the key leaders from film studios, the technical side of things. So it was like literally, I make the joke, it was literally everyone from Adobe to Zeiss lenses. So like legitimately A to Z. And no, everyone there, it was funny because walking into it, I was a little worried that it was going to be, oh, here comes the AI guy, and I'm just going to get, tomatoes thrown at me. But no, there really isn't a lot of fear there. It's a lot of people trying to figure out how we're going to incorporate all of this stuff into existing pipelines. And I think everyone there realizes that, despite a lot of like media coverage of doom and gloom, I don't think anyone there is expecting to lay off, 90% of their staff and just use AI tools. I think what they're looking to do is to be able to really have their teams, work more efficiently and, work and honestly, work less or, do more with less, basically is what
Hmm.
it comes down to, be able to be more effective essentially, and not have somebody doing a pointless task for 8 hours, not a pointless I should say, but a very manual, labor intensive task for 8 hours when they could actually be doing something possibly more creative for 8 hours.
So, in other words, if I'm hearing you, and tell me, it's getting the tools to help bring the vision to life rather than taking so long to bring the vision to life.
Correct. Yeah. There are a lot of just really tedious processes sometimes, like rotoscoping, which is literally the act of like drawing a person out of a frame, and then the next frame you sort of have to do it again. The next frame, and then that way you can change out a green screen to put them into a Star Wars movie or whatever it may be. And by using AI tools, we can expedite that process like to like half an hour, less than that, 20 minutes or so.
Mm.
So what does that person do now? Well, that person um, can now is now freed up to be able to work on other things like designing the background, that sort, like just basically being able to work in a more creative area, as opposed to sort of those just I don't want to because it's technical, I don't want to call it menial necessarily, but
Hmm.
like tedious work, I should say.
Hmm. Yeah, the stuff where there's not a lot of creative uh, energy required. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. What has this done to accelerate your process? What are kind of the top few areas where you've gone from tedious and slow to fast and better?
Right. So I am a one man shop here. It's me and the dog. Basically, I at some point I may have to pick your brain in learning how to scale up a bit. I still haven't wrapped my head around that part of it. But even just from a production side, Adobe has put a new AI tool inside. I edit in a program called Premiere, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. So they've actually put a lot of really cool, smart audio tools into that where I don't know when you record how long it generally takes you, but embarrassingly, it could take me like 2 hours to record like 10 minutes of video only because I'm like, what am I saying? I should script probably better, but a lot of times I'm sort of figuring it out on the fly as I'm talking. So I'll start a sentence. No, that's not quite what I want to say. Stop, start again, midway through, decide, oh, scrap that, and on it goes. So now I can just hit record, just kind of keep the whole thing going, ramble into my microphone, and then bring it into Premiere. And with one click, it will literally remove every silence that I put in there. So as long as I take a pause between my thoughts and I get into editing, all I have to do is run to the very last segment of each area and go like, that's the correct take. That's the correct take. So, I mean,
Mhm.
literally it has taken my editing down from, 2 or 3 hours to what's called an A cut, like basically just, just your talking head stuff to like, a quarter of that. So it's sped up my process tremendously.
Mm. And
I
what
mean, not
about
the
in the
most exciting AI, like tool, but it is actually honestly one of the ones that has been most useful to me. So,
yeah, especially if you're editing video.
hmm
What about in the creation of the video, and how are you using this to help you with the creative ideas?
sure. So, a lot of times with as you're editing, a lot of times you will come across something where you're going to want to be in a show, not say, or show and say, I should say. So you're
Mhm.
talking about something, you want to be able to cut to something and have footage of whatever you're talking about. So the video generators are really fantastic at that part of it, where say I am talking about a California sunset, and instead of rolling out to a stock library, having to try to find the shot that I'm looking for, I can just generate it, and then
Mm.
bring it in that way. Other interesting little like creative things that I've been sort of playing around with are like I've been using one site called Pika,
Mhm.
or one platform called Pika, I should say. Here, let me see if I can screen share this for you guys. Which yeah, it's I don't know how much of your audience is kind of aware of the various platforms that are out there right now, but Pika is a really fun one. It can do everything from these anime-ish kind of things. I was playing around with doing kind of a punk rock song, and then I was going to make an anime-ish video out of it. So you can see some of the generations that I did here. And it's like, and these are kind of the prompts here are like anime, cyberpunk, punk rock, nightclub, mohawks. Is that leather jackets? Sure, leather jackets. Now, I just to note, like all of these video generators do cool but often weird things. So for what essentially would probably come down to a 45-second video, thus far I've generated like just a ton of videos for this, because not everything's going to work. Like in this case, I think this guy's just kind of standing there. That's sort of boring. So, oh, there's a really good example here where it does. These all freak out on you quite a bit. You can see
Mm.
sort of how she's like, she sort of teleports in. So it just requires a massive amount of reprompting, retrying things until you get something. Oh, this is infamous as well. Walking backwards. That
Mhm.
happens. I don't know if you can see. There we go. This
Yeah.
happens all the time for some reason. So it is really just a matter of like, it's a, sometimes it's a bit of a dice roll, but at that point, the way that I look at it is that I am just generating lots and lots of material. And then from an editing standpoint, I then take all of that raw material that I've harnessed, and it's my job then to make it all work, to sculpt it into something.
Well, I mean, how long would it have taken to have an animation studio make any of those
Yeah,
things?
well, and then on top of it, I couldn't afford it either. You know what I mean? I can't afford to pay an animation studio to go out and do this, but I actually have the ability to do this now because of these AI tools.
Yeah, exactly. And I notice, sometimes when I'm teaching this stuff and I show someone, I prompt something and it'll generate 10 great ideas, and then there'll be like two or three of them that have something inaccurate or incorrect. And the person will say, well, number three isn't right, rather than kind of saying, but look at the miracle that it just made right in front of you. They'll go, wait, but that person's walking backwards. And yeah, we live in that kind of world where it's like, it's not fast enough. It's not perfect enough. Hey, quick question for you. What are you learning from this interview? And what do you want to learn next? Well, you probably want to stay ahead of the curve with AI just like we want to. And we want to be your top resource for interesting, cutting edge AI tools and knowledge here on Metamind. We're finding and interviewing interesting experts from different worlds, different industries. And then we're using this knowledge so we can keep up with AI and improve our success, improve our quality of life. So stay with us on this journey. So, first, click on the subscribe button, which you'll find under the video, so that YouTube puts this into your feed when we release new interviews with AI experts. And if you're enjoying this interview, please give me a like to let others know that this is the real deal. And also, if you know someone who's interested in what we're talking about here, then send this interview to them so that they can learn with you. And I also want to hear from you. So go down to the comments below and let me know, what's your favorite prompt or prompting technique? What are your favorite AI resources or tools? What are you learning from this conversation? Do you disagree with anything we're saying here? And also, what else would you like to learn? Who would you like me to interview here on Metamind? All right, well, go and subscribe, leave me a comment below, and back to our interview.
Yeah, and I don't think that that is actually the perfectionism interesting to me. Like, if I were to use any one of the LLMs and say for the YouTube channel and just say like, give me 10 video titles that will immediately go viral, and it gives me, and if it actually legitimately gave those to me, I don't know, like that would, I don't know if I would love that. What I really like is it comes back with 10 kind of half-baked ideas, but there's little nuggets in there that, get me thinking, and I'm like, oh, word here, a word here, a word here. And then suddenly you kind of, you know, not that I would ever text prompt for like give me 10 viral video ideas, or titles, but it's a really great springboard to help you with your own creativity. Again, particularly since I work in a studio by myself, it's usually just me muttering to myself, and the dog looking at me like, what's going on? So having an LLM around, just using the ChatGPT voice feature, it's a good way of just of having an extra voice and kind of thinking out loud with an LLM, I guess.
How can a business owner or someone who wants to increase their influence, how can they use this for the kind of marketing branding side and maybe even the personal branding side?
Sure. So I would say on Dolly has gotten pretty good at doing logos and whatnot. You could probably go through with any of them, Gemini, ChatGPT, even Grok maybe, and come up with some. If you're starting literally from ground zero, where what does my branding look like? What does my what font should I use for my company name? All of that stuff, and then you could go through with something like Dali, generate up some logos for it. Midjourney, interestingly enough, has one thing that I really like doing with them is you could just sort of put in keywords and then prompt keywords for whatever your business may be, and then prompt color palette in, and it'll just give you like literally just color palettes for that are sort of loosely associated with the words that you fed it. So, if it's tech, maybe it's going to come back with like steel blue and kind of a gray, or cold neutral colors or whatever it is. But it'll do it very artistically to the point where that is now your established color palette for your website, for your logo, for on and on it goes. So yeah, I mean, these are just ways that, again, these are springboards. It's like having the way that I like to look at these tools is that you have access to a studio filled with little virtual assistants, and they can do sound mixing, and they can do design, and they can do video, and like all of them are pretty good at doing their job, but not great at it. So it still takes you as a director, as an owner of the studio, to go through and go like, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. But the great thing about it is that they don't complain, and they work whenever you want them to.
Yeah, it's It's a very interesting kind of modality to get into collaborating with, because you're dealing with something that has, a 155 IQ and can work incredibly rapidly, but trying to kind of transmit your creative vision to it and then being willing to curate, you have to take on a slightly different role. You have to be a little bit more of a visionary, a little more of a leader.
Absolutely. I do think that that is going to be a pretty big part. I think curation is actually the a really great word for it, and I
Mhm.
feel that as we move into this has been a discussion that's been going around for quite a while, like with the now that everyone can do it, what does it mean anymore? And
Mhm.
what I think it really comes down to more than anything is that you still have to have taste. You still have to know what to ask for and how to ask for it, and to know those things, to really truly know those things, I think that you have to study art history, you have to study film, you have to be a student of the arts just to know what to ask for, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Developing taste, developing style, developing a sense of style in a lot of ways is really what it is. And I think you said something a moment ago that you just kind of glossed over, but that you can go and you can ask a large language model. You can say, "Here's what I'm doing. Here are my values. Here's my brand. Here's who my audience is. Um, what font would be a good one to use for this?" And it'll give you some different fonts. And then you can go and look at those and say, you know what, that's the one right there. Rather than starting at, a font website with like 27,000 fonts and being like, where do I even begin? That it can boil things down and give you 10 that are pretty good. It's just astonishing. And then you can do that with colors. You can do it with wireframes. You can do it with, designs, with copy. It's like it gets that blank page problem just solved instantly, and it gets you a couple of steps in.
The other kind of cool thing that I've been playing around with lately is now that we've moved into sort of this multimodal area where most of them at this point you can upload a picture to, or again, even like I love having the ChatGPT mobile app on my phone, is that like when I'm walking around a Whole Foods and I'll see just some package that I think looks cool. It's like, oh, what's going? Because I mean, somebody designed that package, whatever it may be, waffle mix to to a box of crackers. And what I'll often do is I'll just take out my phone, take a picture of it, and then hop it over to ChatGPT and just say like, tell me about the design elements in here, and it'll
Brilliant.
give you fonts, colors, like what I mean, just everything about what that what that box of crackers is from a design perspective, and it's like little nuggets that you can kind of steal. There was a great and stealing as an artist is not a big deal to me. There's a great I think it's attributed to David Bowie, um old quote that was there is no such thing as an original artist, just very very tasty thieves.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, you can't copyright an idea, right? Right? You can plagiarize and you can exactly copy someone's thing, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about going and saying, "I love that font, and color combination on some waffle mix," and then going and using that for your website or your brand and using it as inspiration. And that is a brilliant way to think about this. Most people don't realize that you can take any image or picture or design and you can upload it. I remember, I don't know, several months ago when the new Dolly came out, and I said, okay, so let's see, this thing understands. And I went and I grabbed a random picture of, it was like, I don't know, some chicken and cream sauce or something. It was like the first recipe picture I could find. And I just uploaded and I said, what is this? And it went and immediately described what it was and what the recipe probably was. And then I said, okay. And I went over to ChatGPT and I said, give me a recipe for this. And it wrote a long recipe for exactly how to make it. And then I took the recipe and I went back over to Dali with no reference to the original picture, no reference to what it thought it was. I took the recipe and I said, now make me a picture of this. And the picture that it made me was so close to the original picture that I had put in that I just said, okay, I I don't even know what this means, but we're really closing the loop here in a lot of ways.
I ran across a really silly experiment in one of the Midjourney tutorials where you could apparently, I don't even know how I came up with this, but I just instead of a prompt, I just gave it ingredients to a
Mhm.
recipe and then ran the image, and like 9 times out of 10 it would actually generate the thing that I fed it a recipe, or not even a recipe, I fed it ingredients, so it didn't even
Mhm.
necessarily know. It didn't work all the time. Sometimes you would just get these really very aesthetic photos of all of the ingredients laid out, but I'd say for the most part it was actually nailing the actual dish, which was pretty funny to
Mhm.
me. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's fascinating. What about people who are trying to? So many people right now are waking up and realizing, oh, this internet thing is not going away. The content thing isn't going away. Personal branding, like, oh, I have to go online and become someone. I have to, it's like I have to become myself, but online. And so, how do you do that? What are your thoughts there?
Um, that is choose a platform is what I would say, and hone in on that platform. My platform is YouTube. Um, I try on Twitter, but I can never. Twitter has now become my hangout. That's just where I have friends and people in AI that I just kind of chatter on with. But like if I were to try to double in on YouTube and say Instagram, that would be far too much to try to it would be be good at one platform, not mediocre at two, is basically what I would say.
Mm,
And I would the biggest thing I would say along with the AI tools is that I think that you still need to put yourself into it. I think that, and like literally, I think that people connect with people more so. So I haven't seen anything in those AI spokespeople that are kind of trending and going around right now. By the way, the I don't know if you saw that news article that there was the AI influencer that was making $10,000 a month or whatever it was.
yeah.
That's a lie. She's not. That's it. It was a nice little marketing thing, and I think what the idea there was I think the way they got around it was, given all of the mainstream press that they got off of that article, it
I
would be
see.
estimated that she would have made that much. So like, no, it's a loss.
Uh-huh.
So we aren't there yet, and I don't know when we will be. I still think that no matter what, there's going to be a bit of uncanny valleyness to any AI generated character, either modeled off of yourself or me. I
Mhm.
say a lot. That's just my verbal tick, because I tend to externally process. The AI model won't. You know what I mean? It'll be perfect and clear and straight all the way through. But I think that that will be detected by people watching me. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I just think that
Yeah.
there's like this lizard brain part of us that will still always know, like, that's an AI generated person, not a real person. And I find that, as because listen, we are in for a tidal wave of all of this stuff coming in.
Yeah.
And but I think that we're very quick at being able to say like, oh, that's not a real person. That's not, and I think it's going to end up being a turnoff. So I would say, if you were thinking about jumping into social media, utilizing these AI tools, just make sure that you still are in it. So, I mean, there's all
Mhm.
kinds of creative things that you can do though. So you own a car dealership, you can get a green screen, generate a spaceship that you're walking through for one of your videos, and then somehow work in, instead of jumping into the Millennium Falcon, you jump into a old Ford Bronco or something, or new Ford Bronco. They've got the new Broncos. So that one's free to you Bronco dealers out there.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Most people have not made the leap yet that they could go and conceivably right now, for the first video that they make, could have them walking through a sci-fi scene and then jump into the car that's their real car. Because that sounds so Hollywood, it sounds so advanced, and yet the tools are available right now. Like, you could actually go and do this yourself.
The fun thing is that you don't even need to. There is a platform called Runway where you can literally just let's see if we have any assets here. So this was a gag that I recently did, where this was an image of me, but then I aged myself up for it, and I'm out in the desert by myself. So I can just literally kind of do a couple of dots here. Give it a second. Yeah, so I'm instantly green screened out. Or I could go the opposite direction as well. Let's see, delete these and say I just wanted, say this was video of me and I just wanted me there. So I can just, there it goes. So, and then you just kind of point along and, within a few clicks, you've basically got yourself isolated and you are now green screened.
Hmm.
I'll play around with that a little bit later, but this one I actually gave it a pretty hard one here, so cause I would have to go through and erase some stuff. But
But I
you kind
get
of,
it. I mean, it
yeah,
pulled you out immediately,
right.
and then
And then
yeah,
now I've
you
got
just
just
invert.
well, actually, here's the video of like this is the choppy one, but yeah, there you go.
So that's fascinating. You don't even need a green screen.
No, no, you don't. You can really shoot just about anywhere. And I would always recommend that you kind of have, you don't have an extremely busy background. Like your background would probably be pretty good. It should probably pick that up fairly quickly. Mine, I have that light right there, so that it would kind
Yeah.
of, it might get a little confused there. But yeah, for the most part, if you have an iPhone or any camera phone, really any modern camera phone, you shoot anywhere and just pop yourself out of it, put yourself into any environment that you want, and go from there. So
Okay, quick action step here. So the key is learning how to prompt better. You start out prompting by just asking questions and talking to AI like it's a helper, but you quickly realize that getting better at prompting is a huge accelerator and game changer for your own success in life. So these prompts will not only help you get a lot more done faster and accelerate your success, but they'll also help you really get prompting and get better at it. You can get all of these as a gift from me just by going to metamind.co/gift. That's metamind.co/gift, and I'll put that link below, and then just opt in to get it. I've also created a powerful video for you called AI in the Future of Business and Work and Success that demonstrates some of the key mindsets and prompting strategies to help you get up to speed and get a lot more out of generative AI. And it's also included as a free gift when you register. So just head over to metamind.co/gift to get your AI Accelerator Prompt Pack and the other free goodies. All right, back to our interview. What are your top 3 AI tools right now?
right, creatively, I would say from a creative perspective, Midjourney is probably my. I consider that the visual engine for everything, because
Mhm.
it probably is the best in terms of creating a vibe and an aesthetic,
Yeah.
and it's just it's kind of, in my opinion at least, because it's very subjective, but in my opinion it is probably the one that if you were to give it whatever prompt you want, just at a very basic level, hamburger, and it will generate just this really, really fantastic, artistic, beautiful, juicy looking hamburger. They all can do it. Leonardo can do it. Dali can do it. Um, but there's always just a little bit of extra secret sauce in Midjourney, and there
Yeah.
always has been.
Mhm.
And that's the one that I sort of prefer. So a lot of times when I'm iterating upon an idea, I'll start off by going to Midjourney and kind of gathering keywords that I'm sort of thinking about. So before even really the idea has completely solidified, I'll chat with Midjourney basically and see, hone in on what that idea looks like. So there's the old thing with clients, which is the worst thing that anybody on the creative side can hear, which is, I'll know it when I see it. And that is death, because that means you don't know what you're looking for. So that means that any designer or creative is going to, like, in your head, you're going to have to go through 100 variations on this because of no,
Mhm.
no, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So that is something that Midjourney is really great at. It's like, well, what are we talking about? And I can generate up 100 different ones and go through with the client and be like, okay, now we're really starting to hone in. Or, nobody's ever going to have the guts to do this. Just say, here's Midjourney, you do it yourself.
Yeah.
No one, yeah. That's not a good way to keep a client. So probably, don't do that. But once you have kind of your visual style set at that point, I would say probably the two that I'm I'm usually working with the most would be Runway ML Gen 2, which I can take that Midjourney image, bring it in, and then begin animating it, or Pika, which we looked at earlier. The same thing. You can bring that image in and start manipulating it from there. And then on the sound front, if you are doing dialogue, 11 Labs, which creates
Mhm.
probably the most realistic AI voices, they're pretty much at the top of their game right now. And then if you're doing kind of a music thing, there is a platform called Suno, which is just it's just stupid fun. You type in what you want your song to be about, and Suno generates up a song for you, and it's gotten really, really good to the point where you're like, it's I mean, it's borderline like I don't know if that's recorded or or if that was AI generated. Like this version, the version 3 that they just published is really, really quite remarkable. In my type for my usage, a lot of times I will prompt it to not generate lyrics and just use instrumental soundtracks. Which a lot of times what I'll do is I'll generate there and then I'll grab one of my guitars and then play over that a lot of times too. So it's like having that's another AI assistant that I have in my studio is I've got a full-time band just sitting there waiting for me.
Just astonishing. It's really unbelievable how it's going through everything. Yeah. All right. I got to ask you, Tim, what do you think happens in the future? Do you think that this stays this kind of, benign accelerator, bunch of assistants? Do you think it wakes up at some point and becomes sentient? What do you think about AGI, the singularity? Where do you think we're going here?
I try. I we've been moving so fast. I tend not to muse on it too much. Though I do think that at the rate that we're going, I think that AGI it does. I mean, it has to happen. Like at this point now, I mean, we've the wheels have been set in motion. It's just gaining momentum. I think that when it actually does, if ultimately for us, I'm not a doomist. I do not think Skynet is going to happen. Nor, sadly, am I a Gene Roddenberry utopiast where we're going to become the Federation and peace and love and all and everywhere. I think where it ends up, I think the sci-fi show that got it right was weirdly enough Westworld season 3. I don't know if anybody saw if you saw that one. That's the one with Aaron Paul, where it's just it. You've got giant AIs or a giant AI kind of the idea behind it was that there was this AI that was kind of a mother may I kind of system that lived within the city. But for the most part, it really was just people going to work and coming home and watching TV and eating TV dinners. And it's everything is kind of the status quo just kind of stays the same, except like these little tiny things of maybe improvement, maybe not. I mean, like just little tiny futurisms that end up coming along. Like, I just don't see AGI. Yeah, singularity or not. I think that we as people just kind of stay where we are because that's what we do. Like,
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
I don't know.
I
You're
really,
what about you? What do you think?
well,
Are you a doomist or are you accelerist or
yeah, I'll give you my answer. I really like what you just said there. Really tiny futurisms. That's a really cool way of saying it. It just kind of changes our life in these ways that seem small, but they're actually really big. Yeah. So my choice is it's kind of a Pareto approach to the future. It's 80% optimism, 20% pessimism. So I like to look at the whole spectrum. We're pretty creative. I I have a kind of a faith in intelligence in a way that might be a little bit irrational. But I also look at all the dark stuff as well, and I watch, Eliezer Yudkowsky and all those kind of characters, and I love Ray Kurzweil, and I've been, like learning from Ray for 20 years or something, and so I think that this is an incredible time to be alive because we're going to witness this all happening here. Have you seen inside the Vision Pro?
Yes, I did. So while I was at the HPA thing, one of the they were demoing something. I mean, again, this does move into the just because we can, should we element, which is yeah, so.
Oh boy.
I can't remember the name of the company. I wish I did because I would actually give them a shout out because it is interesting. So the idea essentially being that you could be a director on set. You can sort of see through the Vision Pro, but you can have a screen up over here where you're working with your editor as they're cutting the movie while you're standing on the location of the movie that you're on. And then you're going to be another screen over here where you've got your costume designer or your set designer, and they can be looking at stuff as you're directing actors. I was like, that's all really cool. Do you want to do that? Do you want to split your attention, under these three things? There are times when it's like, the efficiency of all of this stuff is great, but that just means more streams of information coming at you. And I think that particularly if you're directing a movie, you probably want your attention focused on the thing that's in front of you fully. So, but yeah, yes. So in answer to your question, yes, I have tried the Vision Pro. It was pretty remarkable.
My prediction is we're a year, maybe 2 years away from being inside of AR, VR, MR, whatever you want to call it, and there are human entities that appear fully human, plus, like human plus, but that have, a 250 IQ.
Sure.
And
your
you can just
Jarvises, basically.
Something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't think of, I'm sort of blanking on the sci-fi. I'll remember it later. What sci-fi character that would be, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Sort of like holographic-y kind of, AI that looks like a person that's kind of guiding you around as you're wearing your Ray-Bans or whatever they may be. I do think that AR more so AR than VR. I think that is just about to arrive. I think that moment is finally here. VR, I'm still I'm still a little hesitant on until they can get that form factor down where it's not, because I will say even just like 20 minutes of having the Vision Pro on, you do kind of feel it just a little bit. You know what I mean? You do kind of, and I couldn't imagine editing or any kind of long-term 8-hour session of working with that thing on. That would kind of end up driving me a little bit nuts. But AR, I see that really as, pop on your glasses and kind of walk around and do this a bunch, as everybody's like, but no one will even say, what's the crazy person doing anymore? You're just going to be kind of walking around with your glasses on doing that, like snapping around. So, and maybe that is less intrusive than the person walking around doing, you know what I mean? Like on their, like, maybe just them kind of snapping around, like with their sunglasses on will be better for us. You're still going to have somebody obnoxiously talking on a subway though.
Yeah, I had a good friend over a couple of days ago and I was showing him the Vision Pro and he put it on and he was looking around and so forth. And he didn't realize that he wasn't looking at reality. He didn't realize that it was 8 cameras that were, right? And once I pointed out, he went, oh yeah, oh what? And that was an interesting moment for me because it's pretty obvious to me, but for some people, it's not,
Right. The one that caught me really by surprise is the eye tracking on there, because there's no mouse, you just look at things, and when you're first because it's like, I would say it's about 2 minutes until you really get the hang of it, or a minute of like kind of stumbling around. But that first minute is so awkward where if anyone that's listening has not tried one, they give you kind of a targeting test at the very beginning. It's a bunch of circles and you have to look at dots and hold your attention on those dots for just a minute so that the sensors can figure out where your eye is looking. And then that becomes, part of how it learns to track your eye. And like during that test, I was feeling that test miserably because I was just like, oh, I gotta look at it. And it's so unnatural at first. And then you go through that test twice. And then by the time you're done, you're like, it just happens. All of a sudden, you're just like, your brain is all of a sudden hardwired to do the thing. It was really remarkable. I mean, when Apple gets it right, Apple gets it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. We'll put some links to your stuff down below in the what is that down there? In that thingy down there? In that description-y thing down there, we'll put some links. And thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, yeah. No, this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you for watching another Metamind AI interview. Remember to keep practicing prompting, keep learning, get our prompt pack and quick start video. Watch our other videos to learn from other AI experts, and stay tuned to us here on Metamind. Stay subscribed because this is going to get really interesting.